don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. Good point, who's next? Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them death. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be my guest. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feed the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to the Commanders Gridiron Report. We are live here on September 18th. Usually go live around 3 o'clock. Unfortunately, for some foreseeable circumstances, had to push it back a little bit today, but still have one great show for you today for episode 3 to discuss what went down in week 2 for the Commanders here in Denver, Colorado. So for those of you who did not get a chance to see the game, we will have some highlights for you. But before we do that, we got to take it into the 1st and 10.
They are the Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy?
And here for the 1st and 10, the Commanders come back to win a close game over the Broncos, 35-33. And with this close game, we saw some action back and forth. And the first quarter was a little rough for the Commanders as, the Broncos were scoring on them. They were up by 18 points, 21-3 at one point. And, of course, we know how things ended. And I'll show you some highlights here in the Burgundy Flex review of what went down. But when it comes to here for the 1st and 10, the overall score, 35-33. When it comes to the Commanders over the Broncos. And we'll go to the Burgundy Flex review to show you what exactly happened within this game.
Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be my guest.
And here for the Burgundy Flex review, for the overall first quarter of this game, it was a very tough matchup. The Broncos seemed to be mollywopping the Commanders because a lot of this was happening within the first quarter and a half of the game. This is what was going on right there. I was muted. Let me do that again. So when it comes to right here, you can see defender goes around, gets to Sam Howell, sacked. That's what we saw a lot within the first quarter and a half of the game. And then we go to the second quarter. And you see Logan Thomas get this next catch. Now, right here, we have a great play to Logan Thomas. Catches the ball, but then gets hit, goes down to the ground. You'll see here in the replay, takes an unnecessary shot to the dome piece, ends up on the ground, out for the remainder of the game. When it comes to having concussion protocol, that was a very unnecessary hit. Player was ejected. He will more than likely see a fine coming from that because you cannot be hitting players like that and taking them out of the game. That is just unnecessary. It is not right to be seeing that. However, his contribution to the team was very big with that being Thomas as he got the touchdown to start the momentum to shift upward for the Commanders. And then we see right here, we see the field goal that would take the game into a one-possession game at halftime. That was at the very end of halftime to take us into the end of regulation going into halftime, down 21-14. So you're down 21-3. All of a sudden, now you're in the game 21-14. We go to the second half for the Burgundy Flex review. And right here, you see him drop back throws a dart down the field. Terry McLaurin up in the air makes the catch. You see old Scary Terry then doing the dance in the end zone, celebrating his touchdown as he makes this a tie ball game at 21 points right here. You can see old Sean Payton shifting in his boots. Look at this highlight right here. Look at the hands, the dart. That's an elite type of throw from Sam Howell. You have got to love that if you are a Commanders fan right there. And Tyrone Montgomery Jr., I'm going to throw you a shout out. Tyrone Montgomery Jr. of the Legacy Maker Sports Network and myself have been praising Sam Howell since he came into the league and saying great things about this kid, and they're paying dividends right here because he's showing you he can be an NFL starting quarterback with a play like that. So the game is tied. Let's take it to when they take the lead for this next time. So right here at the goal, going down, handoff to Brian Robinson Jr. in for the touch to make this a possession game where it's a 28-24 game here in the fourth quarter with 13 minutes left to go. We have that go-ahead touchdown. It's 28-24. We take it into the next one where they add on to that lead a little bit. So right here, back about the 16-yard line, hands it off to Brian Robinson. Robinson takes it in for the touchdown. 2 touchdowns on the day. We'll talk more about Brian Robinson here in a minute, but when you look at this play right here, you know that's a great feeling for everything he's been through. Eric Bieniemy on the sideline too, getting hype. This team is rocking and rolling right now as they are now up 2 games to start the season, 2-0. Undefeated. That is one great highlight. Now, things did get a little scary for a minute, even though they are up 35-24 with an 11-point lead. We take this to the final play of the game for what the Broncos did here at the very end. And this is after, I would say, before I go to this, they had scored a field goal. So now they're only down by 8 points. They're down 35-27, 35-27 going into the last possession of the game. They get the ball back, no timeouts, but they bring it down to where there's a Hail Mary of an attempt of a play. Let's go ahead and see what kind of attempt they made right here for this last play of the game. You see right here, he drops back, moves around, dances around a little bit, throws it on up in the air, about a 58-yard pass, gets batted up in the air on the 4-yard line. Oh, makes the catch. Johnson in the end zone, you see right there, which makes this a 35-33 game. Look at this one more time. Goes up, bounces off some helmets, through the hands, on up in the air, bats it back to himself, and into the end zone. He has it. Touchdown, 35-33. Now, here's a 2-point attempt. Do they get this right here? Well, I've already alluded to what happened as we discussed it earlier, but right here, fake handoff, goes around, throws it to nobody there for the 35-33 end. Commanders narrowly escaping with the victory right there against the Broncos. Broncos go 0-2 to start the year. Riverboat Ron and the Commanders are 2-0. And he is one more game closer to eclipsing 100 career victories. Look at Riverboat Ron out there getting the victory, doing the things he needs to get done as far as the team. Now, he did make some questionable calls here and there, as he has throughout his coaching tenure. But I will say, looking at those highlights right there in the Burgundy Flex review, these players did a great job overall of managing this game and keeping things close. And we'll talk about that more when it comes to the Soldiers of the Week here shortly, because I want to talk about like our MVPs of the game through those highlights and what they did to contribute towards this. But before we do that, we're going to go to our first commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about our Soldiers of the Week.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Yeah. But hey, that was last year. And what did he do? He was out.
Right. And now he's in.
But he's been out for an entire year. It's not, you can't think he's going to make the same impact that he did before he was suspended.
I'm telling you, he won't have to.
What?
See how
Is he going to keep his phone down and not make bets?
Come
on, man.
minute. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Welcome back to a show where we have just as many commercials as a TNT broadcast, the Sports Senseis Unleashed.
I hate you, Joe.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, left side.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report. I'm Drew Willingham. That was our first commercial break, and so far we've gone through the highlights of the previous game in Week 2. And with that, let's go ahead and take it to our Soldiers of the Week to discuss our MVPs from that game.
Where my soldiers, right side, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, left side.
And for our Soldiers of the Week, this is who I have for my 4 Soldiers of the Week because of what their contributions to this team were this week. I have Daron Payne with 5 tackles and 1 sack, as well as Emmanuel Forbes Jr. with 3 tackles and that 1 great interception to help solidify this game right here and keep the momentum strong for this team towards their victory. Then on top of that, now that's just for the defense. When it comes to the offense, I have Brian Robinson Jr., who had 18 carries, 87 yards, and that touchdown right there. When you put it all together, and I have his rushing, I actually put that in incorrectly. It's 2 rushing touchdowns because Sam Howell also had 27 to 39 attempts for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's who I have right there for my Soldiers of the Week. So I apologize for the miscue when it came to putting in Brian Robinson's only 1 touchdown, but he actually had 2 touchdowns, as we saw in the highlights. My apologies for doing that within the show's prep. But hey, you get the point. 2 touchdowns. That's why he's part of my Soldiers of the Week, along with Sam Howell for just a yard short of 300 yards. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Only had 12 incompletions as he has 27 to 39 attempts. And then we have our defensive studs on there as well. And that's who I'd have to say for this episode's Soldiers of the Week for this week's edition of the Commanders Gridiron Report. And for those of you who had just showed up, I will go ahead and pull that back on up when it comes to the Soldiers of the Week. This is who I have right here on defense: Daron Payne, Emmanuel Forbes Jr., Brian Robinson Jr., excuse my typo, he had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Sam Howell, 27 to 39 attempts for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. Those are my soldiers of the week. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take it into the showstopper.
High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feed the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
And for the showstopper for this week, when it comes to the adjustments that this team needs to make in order to improve on next week. And, throughout the second half of the game, they played great. They played how they should play. But the problem is, to start the game out, they're coming back from behind, and they need to get a better spark to start the game off. If they can play like they do in the second half to start the game out and not make the mistakes they made, I will say from last week to this week, they made much improvements on taking care of the football, because last week they had 3 turnovers in the first half. Sam Howell turning over the ball twice with a fumble and an interception in the first game. They learned from that, did great in game 2. However, you played the Arizona Cardinals, who were dumpster Pelicans. You came out the first quarter and a half in this past game, and you played similar to that. That's why you were coming back from a 21-3 deficit, being down 18 points. You cannot do that this upcoming game against the Bills, and we'll talk more about that opponent in the next segment. But you have to improve on that the first quarter and a half of the game, because if you continue to play like that, being down by 18 and then starting to come back, you're not going to be able to make a comeback like that against the Bills, because the Bills proved in this past week that they have what it takes to not only have a lead, but build on that and continue to build on that to have a big margin of deficit at the end of the game for a victory. So when I look at all that and put it all into perspective, I think about the fact that you cannot go out there and mess around when it comes to that. And that's the thing that I think you need to improve on this week for the showstopper segment. With that being said, we're going to go to one more commercial break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the opponent of the week for this next matchup, as well as the final drive. We'll see you guys after the final commercial break here next.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Yeah. But hey, that was last year. And what did he was out.
Right. And now he's in.
But he's been out for an entire year. It's not, you can't think he's going to make the same impact that he did before he was suspended.
I'm telling you, he won't have to.
What?
See how
Is he going to keep his phone down and not make bets?
Come
on, man.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ DWillie87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Welcome back to a show where we have just as many commercials as a TNT broadcast, the Sports Senseis Unleashed.
I hate you, Joe.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report. We are back from our final commercial, and it looks like you guys have been busy in the chat throughout the show, and I haven't had a chance to get to it. But I'm going to get to it now and see what you guys have to say. We got Ike in the house saying, yo. Well, yo, back to Ike. Dante Hill in the house as well on YouTube saying, what's up? What's up, Dante? Glad to have you here in the show. Melvin saying, sorry, I'm late, bro. Well, no, you're just on time. You're only through 2/3 of the show right now. Still in the last third, the home stretch of the show right now. We'll talk about the next week stuff as well. He also says, what's up? Didn't see the Commanders starting 2-0. A lot of people didn't. I, as well, had some question marks at some points, but overall, it's still great to see them starting out at 2-0. And we'll have more to come when it comes to that coverage as well. They did have 2 easy opponents to start the season, though. Yes, Melvin. I will at least give you that on Arizona. Arizona played like a bunch of dumpster Pelicans. They played like a bunch of dumpster Pelicans in week 1. They played like a bunch of dumpster Pelicans in week 2. And when I put all that in perspective, Arizona is not going to be a competitive team, especially as long as Kyler Murray is not in the mix. You got Josh Dobbs, who's only been in there for a month at this point. He was there only 2 to 2.5 weeks before the season even started to fill in at the starting quarterback role, because what they had to back up Kyler Murray before that was not sufficient enough to get through this season. So then when I think about that, and then, we also had the Broncos. The Broncos, they're not the same team as they were last year. They have improved. However, they are not quite at the level that the Commanders are at this point, because the Commanders have been building and building, and now that they have Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator, it definitely is paying dividends. You can see the improvements in how Sam Howell is playing. I would give that a good portion of that to him as his preparation and him practicing and what he's done to improve. But you also have to give part of that to Eric Bieniemy, because the results are showing Sam Howell is playing like a greater quarterback than what he would have had with the coaching that he had last season. So it's a good thing that we only saw him during that one game last year, and now we get to see what he's like under a real type of offensive-minded coach, one that's got 2 Super Bowls behind him over in Kansas City. Not saying that the Commanders are going to the Super Bowl or anything this year. That's far from what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he's going to play a lot better than what he would have had he had the coaching staff that he had last year. So much kudos to them bringing Eric Bieniemy and what he's doing to improve Sam Howell here in year 2 of his NFL career. Ike says, I agree, Melvin. And he also says, my Giants are 1-1. Well, you guys are talking about you agree with the fact that you had 2 easy opponents to start the mother father in season. Okay, I'll give you that. But you know what, Ike? Your Giants barely, and I mean barely, won on Sunday, 31-28 over said Cardinals playing like dumpster Pelicans. And you want to come up in here and talk about the Commanders having 2 easy opponents? Yes, I will give you the fact the Cardinals were a very easy opponent, but you only won by 3 points at the very end of the game. But then the Broncos, again, they improved from last year. The Broncos are not the same team that they were last year. So you have to give it to this coaching staff. You have to give it to Scary Terry for what he did for those catches and what he did to help get them offensively into the spots to get these touchdowns. And he had that one great catch in double coverage as well. Okay. Not to mention Sam Howell and those elite style throws to stand tall in the pocket and throw it into coverage like that and just be confident that it's going to be a dart and your receiver's going to get there. That just goes to show that your preparation with your team has been great. They are utilizing this time well with one another, and you can see the results on the plays in the games. So keep these comments coming, guys. I'll definitely get back to them, but we're going to go ahead and take this into the opponent of the week and see who they've got for this upcoming week for week 3.
Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep?
Here for the opponent of the week, the Buffalo Bills are in town in Landover, Maryland, to take on the Washington Commanders, who are now 2-0. And we look at this Bills team, a team that lost to the Jets on their opening game there in New York in the Meadowlands. When you think about everything that happened in that game right there, and you think about what transpired. You got Aaron Rodgers going down. You've got Zach Wilson coming in. Zach Wilson comes in and looks like a star, taking this game and winning this game against the Bills. Because pretty much from the beginning, when you lost Aaron Rodgers and you lost your inability to have your quarterback, you have to look at what was going on within your team, because you do not have your quarterback anymore for the rest of the season, because he is down with a meniscus tear. Not a meniscus. Well, you know what I'm saying when it comes to the Achilles. He is gone. Everything is gone for the entire season. Zach Wilson comes in and takes this team, leads this team into a victory over the Bills. And the Bills, what you got with Allen right there at quarterback? He got the victory in this past weekend, a substantial victory this past weekend. However, when you're going against a Commanders team that's on fire right here, this is going to be the bigger test. I don't know if it's going to be a bigger test for Josh Allen or if it's going to be a bigger test for Sam Howell at the end of the day. Because Sam Howell is proven with this team, with what he's got behind him as far as coaching, with what he's got behind him as far as talent when it comes to the wide receivers around him. The question marks now are looming to the things that I said in episode 1, and I believe I said something about it last week, is going to be the tight end position, is going to be the offensive line. The two question marks right there, in my opinion, because you got a great running back there with Robinson. You got a great 1-2 punch with him and Antonio Gibson, because Gibson can also catch the ball, and you got more options with that as well because he's more of a hybrid back. Okay, then you got Robinson, who's like ground and pound and running around. Then you got your wide receivers as well. I'm not that sold on base for the tight end, as well as the other tight end in the moment. I can't remember his exact name, but if you can tell me here in the comments, and that's the other tight end, like the tight end 3. But Logan Thomas, he was one of the ones I had a question mark as far as the health. Now, he was fine until he took that unnecessary shot in that game yesterday. That was an unnecessary shot. That player deserved to get ejected, and I'm not saying his name on purpose because that is a dirty hit, and I do not like it. Logan Thomas made one great play there in the end zone to take that first touchdown of the game and help this team start the momentum to trend upward to do what they did by winning this game yesterday. That all starts with Logan Thomas right there, and with what he did to hold on to that football. It's sad to see him go out like that because he's already had concussion issues and other history issues when it comes to his medical history there in the past. It's tough to see him go down, but that's my bigger question marks right now going into this game against the Bills. Your tight end position and your offensive line. Can your offensive line withstand the past 2 weeks and go in there and stand tall and block for Sam Howell and this running back core and the wide receivers and protect these guys to get the points that they did in this past week? Because you can score 35 points on the team like the Denver Broncos. But can you do that against the Buffalo Bills? If they score 30 points, 30 or more points in this next game against the Bills, whether they win or lose, you know this team, the Washington Commanders, is for real, and they are ready to do some things this year as far as at least make the playoffs and maybe win the divisional round, and then probably lose the next round, of course, just be real. But other than that, if they keep winning or scoring 30 points or more a game, because it's tough to score 4 touchdowns in a game, but if you're getting to 30 or more points, like 31 points or more, 4 touchdowns and a field goal, you know this team is ready to rock and roll. Now their field goal kicker has got to get it together as well, because he definitely missed a big-time field goal to start it out yesterday. But luckily, the momentum continued to trend upward, and this team came back, because I was a little concerned when he missed that first field goal yesterday. But other than that, going into this matchup against the Buffalo Bills, the Commanders have a pretty good shot, I believe, at starting this year out 3-0. I would not be surprised if they lose this game, though, to the Buffalo Bills, because I feel like they got smacked in the mouth by losing that game on Monday night on September 11th to the Jets without Aaron Rodgers. Had they lost to Aaron Rodgers, it's one thing, but you lost to the man who was there, who Aaron Rodgers was supposed to replace. You were there you went up against his backup quarterback, someone who they didn't believe in. They brought Aaron Rodgers in to help build. They believe in Zach Wilson for the future, but not for today. Okay, that's why you brought in Aaron Rodgers, and you lost to that guy. So when you think about all that, the Bills are a little smacked in the mouth by that one and want to prove something. So they're out here to prove something, and they did in this past weekend, made a statement. Now they're 1-1. They rebounded from that game against the Jets. However, now you have to do something against the Commanders, who are not the same Commanders they were of years prior. They are not, I'm not saying they're an elite team, but they are not the same team they were. They just won 2 straight games to start the year out for the first time in 12 years. That right there goes to show you that they are a different team. Not only that, but the way that they won that game yesterday. I give you the first game was ugly. And, they should, on paper, have beaten that Arizona Cardinals team with a little bit larger of a margin, a little bit easier. But it's the NFL. Anything can happen. And especially when it comes to storybook endings, even though it's not scripted, as some people have alluded to in the past, it's not scripted. There's no way, no how, the way that the momentum of these games goes, that you can fully script these games. Of course, you have referees making some bad calls, and you have some things that shift the tide within the game for good or bad reasons for either team. But at the end of the day, you still have to go out there and compete. This is not professional wrestling, okay? Professional wrestling, you have predetermined finishes and stuff like that. And then you go out there and you roll through the match, of course. But this is not how sports goes when it comes to football. So going into this game, Buffalo Bills come to Landover, Maryland, take on the Washington Commanders. The Commanders, in my opinion, have a really good chance at winning this game. I would not be surprised if they lose. And I don't want to pick against them, but I feel like in my best interest, because of what the Bills have done of years prior, the type of team that they still are, they just kind of got caught off guard on that Monday night with the type of the weather that was going on there in New York or New Jersey or whatnot. I feel like the Bills are going to win this game. They're going to win this game 33-24. That's going to be my pick, and I'm probably going to be wrong on the score. It potentially could be wrong on who actually wins this game, but just to think that they were going to start off 3-0, and especially with some of the miscues they have made over these 2 games, I would be remiss if I picked them to start out 3-0. I just can't do it. I have to give this one to the Bills. 1:00 game this upcoming Sunday here in Landover, Maryland. Well, that'll do it for the opponent of the week. Let's go ahead and take this into the final drive and get to the final thoughts of this episode for episode 3.
We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A diehard fan never live with regret. Yes, sir.
Here for the final drive, my closing thoughts going into week 3. I alluded to some of those closing thoughts in the prior segment by saying that as much as I want to pick the Commanders because of how well they're playing overall, and especially in big moments in the game, it's, they just went 2-0 for the first time in 12 years. I just, in my heart, I want to pick them to go 3-0 against the Bills, but I can't. I just can't because of what the Bills have been doing in the recent history of time. I have to say that the Bills, in my opinion, are going to win 33-24, and the score might not be right, and the pick might not be right. The Commanders could win this game, and I hope they do. I hope they win this game. But to try to keep my analyst spot on, because I said they had a chance to win against the Broncos this past week, but now I've got to shift a little bit more into reality when it comes to this one. I think the Bills are going to win this game on Sunday at 1:00 at home. But I do think we're going to see still some good play out of this team. As long as everybody stays healthy. You got Sam Howell in there standing tall in the pocket, throwing for nearly 300 yards this past week, 2 touchdowns, not turning the ball over, learning from his past mistake. I think he's going to do well. Brian Robinson Jr. still doing well. Terry McLaurin only had a little over 50 yards receiving, but I feel like that's going to improve as the time goes on, and they knock this rust off from being the offseason, just starting a new season, only 2 games in, and they didn't do much in the preseason because, of course, you want to make sure they're healthy for the start of the year. So at the end of the day, I feel like they're only going to improve, but they're not quite ready to beat the Bills yet, in my opinion. And I hope I'm wrong. But we're going to see some great things from this team throughout the year. They're not done yet with showing us flashes in the pan of what they can do in the potential building of a dynasty. Will it be with Riverboat Ron? Will it be with Eric Bieniemy over time as the head coach? We'll find out beyond this season. But for right now, if you're a Commanders fan, you have to enjoy what you're seeing out here when it comes to their playing abilities each and every week. And with that being said, that is the final drive. We're going to go ahead and take things on out of here for episode 3. Keep the comments rolling, and I'll respond to you after this video has gone live and is syndicated. We've gone through 3 great episodes so far to start this season out for the Commanders Gridiron Report. I thank you all who have watched this show live, who have watched it syndicated. Thank you all for participating, whether it's live or afterwards with the comments. Definitely entertaining, and I appreciate them as well. We're going to go ahead and take this into one badass outro done by the legend himself, Cole Johnson, that he contributed. I did the intro, but he did the outro. But it's time for one badass outro. As always, everyone, please stay safe out here in these streets.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side, Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, Commanders, where my soldiers, watch the middle, Commanders, where my soldiers, now we step, where my soldiers, right side, Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, now we step, where my soldiers, watch the middle, Commanders, where my soldiers, hit 'em.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.